Hey, everybody. My name is Casey Briano. I am the youth pastor at Elkhart Life. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, I can't see you. It's good for you to see me. It's good for you to see me. I have been in quarantine. I was positive for the coronavirus. I am now healthy. I still probably can't go to church. That's why I'm making this video. Can't wait to see you guys again. I'll be having a doctor's appointment this Friday to determine if I can go back to work. If I can go back to work, that means I can go back to church. So hopefully, if everything works out okay and in the Lord's plan, Lord's favor, and God's blessing me like He already has, then I will be back Sunday. Or I might be back at the kids thing, but Sunday, right? Okay. I have the midweek lesson today. To be talking to you guys a little bit. I'll try not to get too preachy. Or maybe I will try to get too preachy. Oh, can I get an amen? I'm just joking. But yeah, it's very good to talk. I did not do the lesson last week. My buddy Josh Nord, the youth coordinator, if we're going by titles, he's just Josh Nord. You guys know brother Josh. He did the lesson because I could not speak more than 30 seconds without coughing. COVID is real. COVID is not something to joke about, but it's not something to be fearful about, because everyone's afraid of it. But my God's not afraid of it. And I was afraid of it. And then I remembered, like, oh, wait, my God's in charge. And He is. But yes, so I could not talk more than 30 minutes. Couldn't talk more than 30 minutes. So that's why I couldn't make a lesson. No, I couldn't talk more than 30 seconds without coughing. You might hear me cough in these 15 minutes I'm going to try to shoot for. But I was coughing and it was hard for me to breathe. So when I was coughing, I couldn't breathe right. When I couldn't breathe, I felt like I was dying. So I almost better. I'm like just at the cusp of being better, fully healed. But so far, like that's like probably the most I've coughed today. But guys, I'll just be honest, I'm thankful for that cough as opposed to where I was a couple of days ago when where I was just coughing all the time. But yeah, so let's get into the message today. I just wanted to talk about maybe we need to remember who God is in certain times. I think we all think of God as this all-powerful deity, this spirit that we can't see, that we can hear from, that we can talk to, we tell our problems to. But we cannot forget who He is in certain circumstances. Like, let's use an example, like my father. My father, at work, he's a welder, right? When he is at home, he's a father. He's the head of the household. You know, he cooks, he cleans, he mows the lawn. He does what a father does. I don't know what my father is like in an investment situation. I don't know what my father's like during a business deal. I don't know what my father is like during a hockey game. I don't know how he would act in a hockey game. I know what my father's like in a baseball game, but I don't know what my father would be like in a hockey game. So we think we know people until we know them in situations. But if I were to sit with my father in a business deal and see how he negotiates, maybe buying a car or setting up a business or opening his own business or some sort of trade or barter or whatever it may be, I would have a better understanding and see my father in a different light. You might know your friends only as the goofy friends, right? You might know as your friends as a person who jokes, but you go to see them at work and then they're like, oh wait, John's really good at selling mulch at Menards. Like, he sells mulch like crazy. Or you might only know your cousin through hanging out with him, and then you meet him a couple years again later. It's like, oh man, he doesn't play with Legos anymore. He's really into death metal. I was like, Timmy is weirding me out. But yeah, you like see people in different lights. You see them in different situations. You see them in different parts of life, and you have a better understanding of them. It's like hanging out with watch your parents talk to their friends, right? Like, oh, did you know that your dad was the funny one or your mom was the funny one? And people thought she was funny. Like, wow. I remember like having that realization, like, oh, my dad has friends, or my mom has friends, and she's pretty cool, you know. Or you give it a better understanding of somebody, seeing them in different situations. Um, Obviously, we go through life. We don't always just have a happy life, right? We don't always just go through, sunny days and, walking on sunshine. Hey, we don't just do that. Um, but we see God through that. So we all know what God is like in our lives when we're happy, right? We all know what God looks like in our lives when we have blessings and everything is good. But we also go through sad times in our life, and then that's when we see God in a different light. Then that's actually when we lean on Him, and we open that door, or He opens that door, where to see Him in a different light and see maybe more of a complete version of Him, just a different aspect of Him. So, when we go through things, like we go through like trials and tribulations, like me, I went through a trial. I'm kind of coming out of a trial where I had COVID-19. I was sickness. Every time you're sick, and it's serious and it's scary, it's a trial. It's God put you something that you maybe can't handle just a little bit, so you can lean on Him more and grow close to Him. And I see God in a different aspect, because relatively my whole life I'm healthy. I don't get sick often, and if I do get sick, it's just the flu, which I know will be good. But if it's something serious, something scary, something that's like more adult or mature, that is like you can't really handle it on your own, it's different because you have to rely on something. And as humans, we tend to do everything ourselves. We tend to rely on ourselves, pick ourselves by the bootstraps, muscle it up, tough it through. It depends on who you are, but mostly human nature is to do it yourself. Is to handle it yourself, and it's hard for us because we're prideful creatures to hand it off. So, but when we do hand it off, we understand what God does. We don't want to be let down. We don't want to be, like we don't want to put our faith into something and then something bad to happen to us. But I mean, that's where God steps up when we step down and we say, God, you can handle this. And then God does handle it. So that's like, what does God look like in a trial and tribulation? Well, when you give it to Him, you realize that He's your provider, He's your healer, He's, your situation solver. And then you have the understanding. And then when you praise Him, you're like, oh, wow, this is my God, and this is why I praise Him. But today, I wanted to talk about, the message today is remember who your God is. And I know we go through trials and tribulations, and those are things that happen, and those are things that maybe we can't control. But there are some things that we can control, and it's interesting to find out who God is in this time. And I think we all are. The Bible says we're born into sin, shaped in iniquity. We all have flesh. We're all given to our fleshly desires. But we're always dealing with sin, right? And sin is sin is something that is hard to deal with unless you get the understanding of it, right? The devil doesn't tempt you with things that he doesn't tempt you with things that you're going to say no to. He doesn't tempt you with things that don't appease to you. I'm not saying that we don't have power over sin, because God gives us power over sin, but people struggle. You could say that it's a pretty fair statement to say that people do struggle with sin, and people struggle with sin nowadays more than ever. Sex and lust and pornography is all pushed in every form of media. If you're on like YouTube or Facebook and you get a phone game advertisement, half the time it's going to be, and especially if you're like if they have you in an algorithm with your age and your gender. Let's say if you're a man and you're 18 to 30, they're going to give you an advertisement for a game with a half-naked woman on it, just a phone game, that to waste your time, a distraction. But not only is it like a phone game, but they're going to add a twist to it. Everything is pushed into your face. Wrath, gore, all these things are pushed in your face, and everything is set to an extreme in the media. If you have Amazon Prime, if you have Netflix, you have Hulu, if you have YouTube, Red, all of those things that provide shows, all those shows have stuff that is pushed an agenda to the max. It has sexuality pushed to the max. It has gore pushed to the max. It has psychological thriller pushed to the max. It has horror pushed to the max. All of those things are pushed to the max and pushed in your face. So yes, sin, evil is pushed in our face every day. So is it hard to deal with sin? Yes, until you let God handle the situation. But when you first deal with it, yes, it is hard to deal with, because the devil doesn't tempt you with something that you will just easily scrape out. Like, the devil's not tempting me with cigarettes, right? He's not going to tempt me because I've never smoked cigarettes. I never saw the I never saw the attraction to do so. I never saw the appeal to it. So the devil doesn't tempt me with cigarettes, but the devil might tempt me something that I may have struggled with in my life, because he knows that is something that I have struggled with before. Whether it be a past sin or a fleshly desire, he might tempt me with. But God doesn't let us be tempted without a way out. Who is God when we are tempted? 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "There hath no temptation taken you, but such as in common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it." God knows that the devil's going to tempt you. God knows that the devil's going to give you too much to handle, but he's going to give you a way out. If the advertisement comes on your phone and you're like, oh wow, a person of the opposite sex, and I'm attracted to this, and my body says yes, but I know my spirit says no, there's always that option to hit the X and to delete the advertisement and say, I don't want to show this, and it says why. Is it irrelevant? Is it inappropriate? Or is it another word that starts with I? I always choose it's inappropriate, so YouTube will stop showing it to me. YouTube will never stop showing it to me because I fit in the demographic, I fit in the algorithm, but there's always a way out. Not saying that that is too much for me, that's just an example. But whether it be something, maybe you do struggle, your whole family smokes cigarettes, and there's a pack of cigarettes, and next thing you know, you hear a voice that says you should smoke this. Oh, your whole family does it. It eases the stress. You see what it does. There's a reason people smoke it. Go do this, or maybe your friends will tempt you or something, but there's always a way out. You can always walk away from the room. You can pray about it, but there's always going to be a way out. So who is God when you are tempted? Well, God is a person that gives you a way out. So remember who your God is in your temptation. He is the one that gives you a way out, and he allows you to overcome it. And if you do struggle with sin, God is the one that gives you power to overcome it. But let's say you do sin. Let's say that you give in to the cigarettes, you give in to the alcohol, you give in to lustful desires, you give in to the gossip, you give in to those things. It was too much for you. You, in a moment of weakness, you said yes, or you were just tired of struggling with it. Who is God when you sin? Who is God when you fall? Who is God when you can't deal with something like that and you just give in? Well, Psalms 116:5 says, "Gracious is the Lord and righteous. Yea, our God is merciful." So God is gracious. He'll give you blessings. He'll pour things over your life. And he's righteous. He believes in right and good. He believes he has understanding of good and evil, and he is righteous. He is on the good side. But it says, yea, our God is merciful. God will show us mercy. God gives us forgiveness. Jesus died on the cross. He died for our sins. Who is God in our sin? I think we all know that. God is the forgiver of sin. Now, you may feel like your sin is maybe too heavy. You maybe feel like your sin is too rough, is too addictive, is too much, but that is never too much for God. The thing is that we lay it at God's feet and we say, I'm sorry for this. Will you take this away from me? Now, the devil will tempt you with things that he knows you will struggle with. Like he'll put things in your path that he knows that you will stumble upon. But God is there to give you power. He's gracious enough to give you power over that, to step over it, to not look at it, to not struggle with it, to not carry it, to not be with it, to not live with it, to not have to carry it, carry that weight, to not have to be addicted to it, to not have to struggle with it. He's gracious in that. He is righteous in that he wants us to not choose that, to not choose the evil, but choose the good. He is righteous in that. And our God is merciful. So if we do struggle with that, if we do carry that, if we do take that up, we take that sin and we splatter it across our chest and across our soul and our spirit, and we're stained by it, God is merciful and he washes that away and he forgives. He forgives that what we deal with. He forgives us. So who is God in our sin? Well, first off, he's gracious. He's gracious to give us power over it. He's righteous and give us understanding if it is wrong. He lets us know and he will convict us, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm thankful for conviction, because I would not want to live my life not knowing what sin is, not knowing is something like this bothering me. Something like this is okay in my life when it's not. And then he is merciful. He will forgive us. He will be with us. He will take that sin for us. He will forgive us of that sin. So who is God in our temptation? God is the one that gives us a way out. Who is God in our sin when we do commit sin? Well, he's the one that forgives us. God is there in every situation. And once we have an understanding of who he is, it makes it so much easier to deal with that. Trials and tribulation come unannounced. Sin will come unannounced. Sin will tempt you unannounced when you're weak, when you feel like you can't handle it. Sin will be there. But we have to understand who our God is. See, if I don't know how my father is in a business deal, I'm not going to take him with me to a business deal. But if I have this understanding that my dad is a great businessman, and if I have this understanding that my dad is a great, he knows a lot about business, and he knows a lot about talking to people, and he knows a lot about, I don't know, I really don't know anything about business. I don't know what I'm talking about business. But if my dad is knowledgeable in business, I will take him there. And if I have that understanding, knowing, I will have a much better chance in that business deal, in that business situation. You understand what I'm saying? Like if my dad knows about cars, I'm going to take him with me to buy a car, so I know that I'm getting a good deal out of a car, right? So it is good to know who is in your corner when sin does come around, when sin does tempt you, when you do struggle with it. You need to know who God is. So you need to remember who your God is in those situations of temptation, in those situations of sin. So that is my lesson today for you, is for you to remember who your God is in the situation. And we might go into more topics on who God is in those topics. Who is God in your loss? Who is God in your trial and tribulation? We can talk about that. But I just wanted you guys to remember who your God is through your sin and for your temptation. He's there with you. He is watching out over you. He wants the best for you. And he sees your effort, and he sees what you go through. That is God through your temptation. God, and when you have sin, God of your forgiveness. Knowing that you just understand that God is the God of no sin. You know, he doesn't want you to have to deal with it. He wants you to overcome it. He doesn't want you to struggle with it. He doesn't want you to carry it. He wants none of that for you. So if the God who wants none of that for you is on your side, and sin comes around and you let God step in front of you, probably not going to have to deal with it. Probably not going to have to struggle with it. Probably not going to, carry that. We do everyone falls short of the glory of God. We all make mistakes, but God is there to help us with those mistakes. God is there to help us with those problems and to help us when we're dealing with that. So that is who our God is. So remember who your God is when someone offers you a cigarette, or someone asks you to just do drugs or drink, or someone of the opposite sex offers you a certain situation. Remember who your God is in that situation. And I promise you that situation will have a better outcome for you and a better ending for you. I love you guys. I care about you guys. Can't wait to see you guys again. I hope you enjoyed today's message. And show up to church on Wednesday nights, because Pastor has good messages too. So thanks for watching this message. I hope you're watching it after you either have watched Pastor's message or you were at church. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, and you talk about anything like that at all, you can text me. You can DM me at Elkhart Life Students on Instagram. You can text me if you have my number. You can ask for my number. So let me know. Love you guys. Bye.